So the U.S. Mint yesterday announced its 2023 candidates for the American Women Quarters program. Find out who I think might be qualified candidates for 2024 and beyond, coming up next. Hi, I'm Kevin from Canton Coins and Collectibles. Welcome back to Coins Making Sense. So the U.S. Mint yesterday announced its nominees for the 2023 American Women's Quarter program. Yesterday's video from Son of a Silver Stacker went over the different nominees and what their contributions to history have been. However, we still have 2 more years left in this program, and there are a number of women that are more than deserving to being on this program. And I have my top 10, well, maybe 12 women list of people who I think should be on the American Women Quarters going forward in 2024 and 2025. And just a disclaimer, this is by no means a complete list. This is just, 12 individuals that I feel warrant their place in history to be commemorated on the American Women Quarters program. Let's take a look at the list. First off, we have Amelia Earhart, aviation pioneer. Earhart was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She received the U.S. Distinguished Flying Cross for her pioneering achievements in aviation. Unfortunately, she disappeared in 1937 with navigator Fred Noonan over the Pacific Ocean while attempting to circumnavigate the globe. Next, we have Aretha Franklin, singer and songwriter. Aretha Franklin was a singer-songwriter of the Motown sound. She is referred to as the Queen of Soul. With global sales of over 75 million records, Franklin is one of the best-selling music artists of all time. And she always garnered that R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Betty White, comedian and actress. Betty White was one of the earliest pioneers to make the transition from radio over to television back in the 1940s. Her 9 decades of television work has given her the title of the First Lady of Television. She was one of the first women in the entertainment industry to both work in front and behind the camera. And she is a very well-known champion of racial and LGBT rights, as well as a fervent supporter of animal welfare. Clara Barton, nurse. Clara Barton was a nurse during the U.S. Civil War, and she attended to the wounded of victims by providing them clothing, food, and supplies to the Union armies. Eventually, she received permission from the Army to work on the front lines, and she was able to distribute medical supplies, bandages, all sorts of equipment to many battles during the war, including the First and Second Bull Run, Antietam, and Fredericksburg. She was well known as the Angel of the Battlefield for coming to the aid of overwhelmed surgeons at many battles, especially the battle at Cedar Mountain in 1862. After the Civil War, she established the Missing Soldiers Office. Their purpose was to find or identify the soldiers who were killed or missing in action from the war. Ultimately, her experience as a nurse and providing provisions to those in need at times of disaster, Clara Barton founded the American Division of the International Red Cross in 1881. Grace Hopper, computer scientist. Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper was one of the first programmers at the Harvard Mark I computer labs, where she was a pioneer in computer programming. She was one of the first people in computer science to devise the theory of machine-independent programming languages. That is, taking human language, words that people can understand, and having the device translate that into the machine language, the ones and zeros. Dr. Hopper also created one of the first high-level programming languages, COBOL, a language which is still used in computer industry to this day. Harriet Tubman, abolitionist. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery. She was beaten and whipped by various masters as a child. This caused traumatic injuries that caused her tinnitus and caused her headaches throughout her life. She finally escaped to Philadelphia in 1849 at the age of 27. Slowly, one group at a time, she guided dozens of other enslaved people to freedom by traveling at night and in extreme secrecy. Tubman, or Moses as she was called, never lost a passenger on the Underground Railroad. After the U.S. Civil War, she worked for equality, civil rights, and suffrage for women. Helen Keller, author, lecturer, and activist. Helen Keller is known for having lost her sight and hearing after a bout of illness at the age of 19 months. She was guided and aided by her first teacher and lifelong companion, Anne Sullivan, who taught her language, including reading and writing. Ultimately, she attended Radcliffe College at Harvard University and became the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor's of Arts degree. Keller campaigned for those with disabilities, women's suffrage, labor rights, and world peace. The story of Keller and Sullivan was first made famous by Keller's 1903 autobiography, The Story of My Life, as well as it being adapted for stage and film as the well-known adaptation, The Miracle Worker. Judith Cohen, aerospace engineer. Judith Cohen was an aerospace engineer who worked on the Minuteman missile, the Science Ground Station for the Hubble Space Telescope, and data relay satellites. This pioneer was a computational scientist at NASA during the Apollo space program. She worked on the abort guidance system that brought Apollo 13 spacecraft back from disaster in April of 1970. In fact, she was working on that abort guidance system for Apollo 13 while she was pregnant. In fact, she took code from the program to fix a problem while she was in labor. When she was at the hospital, she fixed the code. Oh, and she had the baby. That baby today is actor and comedian Jack Black. Katherine Johnson, mathematician. Katherine Johnson was also an aerospace mathematician who worked at NASA in the early days. Her calculations were crucial to the success of the first U.S. manned space flights. Her calculations included trajectories, launch windows, and emergency return paths for the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo space missions. She was known as the human computer for her tremendous math capabilities and ability to work with space trajectories and with the limited technology that was available at that day. Katherine was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015 by President Barack Obama. Her story is the basis of the 2016 movie Hidden Figures. Rosa Parks, civil rights activist. Rosa Parks is famous for what happened back on December 1st, 1955. She was a passenger on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. After picking up some more passengers, the whites-only section of the bus had reached its capacity, and Parks was ordered by the bus driver to vacate her seat. Parks' refusal to relinquish her seat and subsequent arrest served as a rallying cry that stoppage of all black citizens riding the Montgomery bus system lasted for over 380 days. Since that point, she served as an icon for the civil rights movement. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the first Jewish woman and the second woman to serve on the United States Supreme Court. Ginsburg spent much of her legal career as an advocate for gender equality and women's rights, winning many arguments before the court. Ginsburg also received the attention of the American popular culture for her passionate dissent of numerous cases, widely seen as reflecting the liberal views of the law, and she received the nickname of the notorious RBG. And finally, Sojourner Truth, abolitionist. Sojourner Truth was an abolitionist and women's rights activist. She was born into slavery, but escaped with her infant daughter to freedom in 1826. She is best known for a speech that she extemporaneously delivered in 1851 at the Women's Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio. Her quote, "Ain't I a woman?" resonated with the crowd. She was instrumental in recruiting black troops for the Union Army during the United States Civil War. So there you have it, my 12 women that I feel are more than deserving for having their visage on the United States American Women's Quarter Program. Now, this is by no means a complete list. This is just whom I've found and who I feel have garnered the respect of being put on the quarters. If you have any suggestions for anybody else that deserves to be on the quarters, why don't you write it in the comments? If you liked the video today, why don't you give it a thumbs up? Hit that likey. And if you want to see more videos from Coins Making Sense, why don't you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications of future content. And that's all today from Coins Making Sense. I'm Kevin, here in your spot for the dissemination of information to the numismatic nation. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great night.